He jammed his heels into the Mustang's flanks, but instead of bolting, the horse reared up, confused and unnerved by the gunfire and unsure what to do for the best. Falloway yelled, "Get him!" Out in the middle of the street, as clear a target as any of them could have wished for, O'Brien fought his mount back down, and as it turned sideways onto the crowd pushing out of the saloon, he brought his .38 around on them and fired twice. Flames spat through the night. As one, the men on the porch ducked low, but O'Brien wasn't interested in making a fight out of it. The odds were too damn long for that. Instead, his bullets found the lantern swaying gently at the far end of the overhang, and it burst apart in a miniature eruption of flame, oil, and splintering glass. Even as fire rained down from heaven, it began to catch and spread across the dry, weathered wood of the porch, bringing renewed howls from the men crouching there. O'Brien snapped-aimed at the lantern that mirrored it on the other end of the overhang, and again his Colt cracked and the lantern burst apart. Suddenly the porch was in uproar. O'Brien knew that if they caught him, there would be no punishment too cruel for these men to inflict upon him. Therefore, they must not catch him. He wheeled the Mustang around and kicked it into motion. Behind him, the shouting men straightened up, and while some tried to stamp out the spreading fire, others ran for the saddled horses tugging at the rack or the animals milling, nervously now, in the pen. O'Brien emptied the .38 as he blurred up the street after Omaha Tom, shooting out lanterns as he went. One after another they exploded, and oil-fed flames splashed down over wood just ripe for the burning. Mane flying wildly, muscles nodding and flexing, the Mustang thundered on up the street. O'Brien stuffed the .38 into his belt, drew Tom's .45, and started on the lanterns hanging intact along the other side of the street. Shattering glass added to the growing cacophony. Twisted metal jolted and fell from hooks. Liberated flames spread swiftly across cabin and storefront alike. The night air began to stink of the smell of burning. The faint breeze began to spread it and waft smoke in a cloaking black-gray curtain between him and his would-be pursuers. At the end of the street, he dared to draw in and turn the heaving horse sideways on again in order to survey the damage. Smoke was billowing up toward the black, star-filled sky. Flames were alternately reaching out and then shrinking back, leaping 9, 10, a dozen feet into the air, licking greedily up and over the crude shacks. Above the roar, he heard men yelling, something about fetching water, he thought, and that was good, because while they were fetching water, they wouldn't be chasing him. He was just about to turn the horse away when a hastily mounted rider burst through the wall of smoke with a 6-gun in his hand. As O'Brien recognized Falloway's now contorted face, Falloway's watering sea-blue eyes came to rest on him, and he fired his gun twice in rapid succession. Again, O'Brien's Mustang sidestepped nervously, but steeling himself against a natural impulse to dodge or duck, O'Brien brought Tom's .45 up and returned fire. Falloway's horse broke stride and then stumbled a little sideways, and Falloway went backwards off the charging animal with a screech that ended in a gurgle when he connected with the ground. But though he was down, he sure wasn't out. Fact, he was back on his feet almost at once, 6-gun still bucking and blasting in his fist. O'Brien, fighting his own prancing horse, clenched his teeth and fired back, and Falloway screamed as red spray burst up and out ahead of him, and he dropped the gun, grabbed his torso, and twisted sideways and down. O'Brien looked at him, hunched up there and still as stone, dyed red by the flames growing steadily around them. A moment passed, but no one else came through the smoke after him, so O'Brien turned the Mustang and got out of there. Up ahead, Omaha Tom was just getting the spare horse under control and thinking about turning it around and heading back into the burning town. O'Brien rode up and reined in to block his trail. "Uh-huh," he said. Tom glared at him. Amber shadows danced wildly across his face. "You won't get away with this," he said in a low voice, his words almost drowned by the crackle and spit of the feeding flames. "You already said that," O'Brien reminded him. "I mean it," Tom growled sullenly. "It's a long way twixt here and Brigham, mister. Remember that. A lot can happen." O'Brien's eyes went flat again. The last 20 minutes had passed more like 20 years, and he wasn't out of the woods yet. "Let's go," he said, indicating the desert shelving away beneath the starlight ahead of them. "And you remember something. You cause me any more grief before we reach Brigham, and so help me, Tom, I'll have your balls for bed knobs.